And welcome to this episode, which is actually really special for me as I am recording this being 16 weeks pregnant. So I will be speaking both from a professional space as well as a very, very intimate and personal. My intention for this episode is to share about things that are related to the first trimester and we don't usually find when we search in the internet, so they're not really radically available. So I want to bring those deeper aspects of the first trimester, the journey that a woman and her external environment goes through those first few months when she finds out she's pregnant. And I also aim to give some tips or insights on how to navigate this time, which can be so different from woman to woman and from pregnancy to pregnancy. So even though you are maybe a mom already, your second or third or fourth pregnancy may look completely different than the one before. So I want to give some universal tips that are fundamental and to the root to support women going through this journey and making the most out of it.
Hello and welcome to Birth Voice, a series of conversations giving voice to the hidden dimensions of birth and with that of a woman. Here, we talk about birth, sexuality, pleasure, and shine light on the wise, wild, and innocently sensuous nature of being a woman. Birth Voice is brought to you by womanawakenings.com.
I wanted to be a mother for so long, since I remember myself actually. And a whole journey that brought me into this moment where I had a positive pregnancy test was vast, so vast that could also almost not be contained in that plus or minus sign on the pregnancy test. If I go back though, I do feel that I knew it, or a part of me knew it, that I was pregnant. And this could also be obvious from the differences in my body whilst waiting for my period. My body was way different than before. And two things that were different were my breasts. So my breasts were really swelled and really changing. But also my libido. So I would feel my libido would usually fluctuate during one cycle. But on that month, my libido was so high all the time, which was really interesting and different from the usual cycle when expecting my period. So I waited one day after my period's expected day, and then I did a pregnancy test, which was positive. And kind of see that result, and this can be associated with so many emotions and a feeling and a mixture of emotions: joy, excitement, fear, happiness, something unexpected that takes you off your feet, depending on where you are in your life. The point being that it is something that is a huge transition, almost like knowing that you are invited for a journey and you just see the tickets in front of you. And it's going to be a journey it's a big one. So for me, it had been that mixture of excitement, but also fear, knowing that I am on my edge for something. And even though both my partner and I wanted to have children, and we have been discussing this since we've met. This baby came unexpected in the sense that we've been using the natural contraception methods, which is avoiding internal ejaculation on the ovulation days. But for this specific month, the ovulation day somehow changed dramatically. We were traveling, which could be a factor. So it felt like our deepest desire was to be parents. And in combination with the desire of this soul, this child to come to us, things just shifted. And here we were in that moment of, wow, I'm pregnant. Was it unexpected? It wasn't, and it was. Because tuning into myself, I've always wanted it so much. And the reasons that were holding me back after I've met my partner, after I've met the person that I was sure I wanted to have children with, it was purely mental factors. And I'm not saying those factors should be ignored. No. But this unexpected conception of this child made me feel how small I am in a way of planning things about life, and at the same time knowing that, yes, I contributed to the manifestation of this. I wanted it. If I surely didn't want it, I could have used other contraception methods. I actually had a list of the things I wanted to do before becoming a mom, and they were mostly related to my job and my creation, thinking that the right time would be when I have done this, and this. However, speaking to people, I've heard a lot of times, Steph, you'll never be ready, so just open. And I do feel it was this opening, this mental opening, that actually allowed the conception to happen. Besides the logistics, of course, which is the ejaculating inside of me. So, yes, the logistics of conception are huge and could have a whole podcast by itself, knowing that a lot of people actually struggle with conception in our times. But my feeling about it is when both the father and the mother want to have this child, and the not just the ego part, but the bigger part of wanting to have a child, that each one of the three, mother, father, child, will contribute to each other's evolution. It somehow happens. As I said, even the fertility days changed for us to make this possible. The other point that was highlighted in this time was to tell or not to tell. So my internal environment, that I know I'm pregnant, and my relationship to my external environment. Of course, the first person being my partner. And we're lucky enough that we both wanted to have children at this time. We're consciously talking about it beforehand. But I can imagine that this could also not be the case for other women. And then we have the more outer circle, our loved ones, our friends. And I did find myself wondering, shall I say this or shall I not say it to people? And a big factor for me about this was my previous miscarriage. It was not until that moment that I had realized that I actually haven't completely healed, even though I thought I was not affected, and it didn't affect my conception, and it was not a front line in my life. When I was pregnant, I could see that I still had some fear around losing the baby. And all of a sudden, this time, this deadline of the wait 3 months before you tell became a thing, because in a way I could not fully surrender to the process, even though my body was fully surrendering to the process as it was creating this child. Part of me wasn't, and it was the emotional part of fully embracing it, and also enjoying it and taking it with the risks and with the loss and with whatever it could come with. So both Michael and I decided not to tell people. One aspect of this was the fear of it not happening eventually. But the other thing, which was really important and profound to experience, was I want to protect this baby. So when I introduce this baby by saying I'm pregnant, I expose it in a way. And it's really important to feel and to think about this child as he's already here, even though physically he's still forming. It's almost like it needs groundness. And this groundness comes slowly as everything is progressing. So at the end, we decided to go with our intuition. And I was actually really excited, and I couldn't hold back on sharing it with people I loved and that were close to me, my parents, my family, but also some friends that I happened to see. And as I said, I would go with my intuition and feel if the space was welcoming for that. And also, let's say this pregnancy didn't result in a live baby, I would still want to share both my sorrows and my joys with the people that I love. So I did decide to share it with some people that were close to me, because even if, let's say, I was grieving, I would have loved to share that. I am a person that I can't hide my emotions, in a sense. If I'm sad, I'll be sad. I won't hide it and leave it for later. Just because it's hard for me to put a mask on, or wait for it to finish and then tell people no. So I decided to share it and celebrate it for what it is, which meant I had to accept the potential loss. But coming back to this idea of a miscarry and the impact that this can have on sharing this joyful news with someone, it kind of felt for the first time as if I had a deadline. After the first trimester, you're safer to share this. So I was letting this brew inside of me, and this brewing was actually helping me heal from a previous miscarry and position myself where I am now with this baby, with this partner, with me as I am now. It was also really interesting because, as I said, I was not fully invested at first. And the baby made it clear to me throughout all the ways that he has been communicating with me, which is the next point I want to cover. So he made it clear to me that I'm here to stay. Just get out of this not fully being here with me and with yourself in it just because you're scared that you're going to lose me. I'm here, and I'm here to stay. So communicating with our children before birth is a huge subject, but I want to touch briefly on it because it was so profound and real for me that it couldn't not be like this. I met this child, this soul of this child, about a year ago. No, at that time it was about 2 years ago. I was actually in a spa, and I was I caught myself feeling, I'm so happy I found out how to take care of myself in this deep, nurturing way for my feminine body. And I can't wait to share this with my daughter and bring her up this way. And then all of a sudden, I had this insight, which was beyond my thinking mind. Oh, wow, I'll have a boy. So, a little bit about intuition, it can present itself in so many ways. There are so many intuitive senses, but for me personally, it will come like as a sound and as an inner vision. So, see pictures and hear things that I would know it's my intuition or a realm beyond the physical that I'm connecting to in that moment. So he came and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a boy. How am I gonna bring him up? And then I hear this voice saying, well, I'll have a father. This actually brings tears in my eyes, and it just like vast. Because it's the truth. Every time I say something so true and so big, my eyes water. So yeah, so that was the first communication I had with him. And then since I've met my partner, both a girl and a boy were appearing in my field. They would make me aware of their presence. And then the girl suddenly left. She went more in the background, and the boy was coming more. And I was sure I was going to have a boy. So it was this beautiful moment in that month that I actually was pregnant already, but I didn't know that I was walking in the forest. I was in a very peaceful state, and he appeared in my awareness, in my field. And I was with a friend, and I go to her, I'll be a mother soon. And I kept saying that for the months before. I was kept saying this to people. I'll be a mother soon. I'm feeling baby's coming. I could feel him closer. But that day, I saw him in my inner vision and awareness. And he said to me, you have to come and get me. And it was not a thinking thing, but what I saw was like this image of me as a swan. You know how swans put their little ones under the wing? It was this image, and I was doing this energetically with his soul. He was shy, so I put him under my wing and then disappeared. And I didn't think of what I was doing, it just happened. So I left it there. And then the other sign was that I was shopping, and suddenly I found myself drifting into the baby section, and I'm like laughing, but at the same time going as I was magnetized by it. And I feel this feeling, if you want me to come, buy something for me as a gesture of opening the space for my coming, for welcoming me. So I just got something, and it was white, but it was a boyish thing. So I was just laughing. I was like, good, he's a boy. I know he's a boy. So I bought it. And then that same month, I found out I was pregnant. When I was pregnant, he was making himself more clearly visible to me. Not always. And even though he was inside my body growing, I felt him more in the etheric realm. Let's say at a more like here space instead of here. And there's an amazing book that actually came across that is called Spirit Babies. And for those who experience these things but are questioning or need an outside confirmation that, yes, you're not crazy. What you feel is what is. Then that I would suggest that book to kind of open this possibility for you and to, validate your experience. Because sometimes when about things like intuition and the invisible world. We're sometimes further away from it. And even though we experience it, because we don't bring it here by talking about it, then it can't remain in the background. So I would suggest that book for those who want to know more about this, because I do believe that the spirits of our babies are here with us, and they have been with me for years. I even ask my children to bring their father, which they did. So that was a detour. Every woman will go through her own challenges. And as I said in the beginning, this is a very unique journey for every pregnancy. Another highlight I had in this time was the physical symptoms. And for me, I had one of these pregnancies that I was so totally exhausted all the time, in addition to nausea. So that meant for me that I had to really, really switch gears, and not from the fifth gear to the first gear or the second. It would be from the fifth gear to stop. Because sometimes it's hard to really get it unless you're in it. Saying I'm tired can be, okay, I'm tired, I can get a rest and continue. But it wasn't like this. I'm in basic functions like having a shower, getting up to get water, answering my phone calls, things like this, or making food for myself were literally impossible. And that's where I realized I really have to surrender. The hard part for me was to stop the things I was doing for my work. In a way, I'm lucky and I'm so grateful that I am my own boss. But that means also for me that I need to have the responsibility to feed my creation. And I'm so totally in love with my work. It is my life's mission, my passion to offer. But also it felt a bit of, this is how I identify myself. So in the changing gears, it wasn't only about stopping and leaving it on the side. It was, who am I? Who am I becoming? And of course, logically, I work with pregnancy and I'm pregnant now, so it's already a lot. But it didn't feel like this, and it was quite tough for me to stop. Having said that, this lasted for about 2 weeks, where I felt like I was pushing for things to happen, for things I planned before, and I wanted to finish them. One of the tools and the keys that I also want to share with other women out there, it is this big word, surrender. I know surrendering doesn't have to do with something you learn or something you hear. You have to experience it yourself. And in a way, life will make sure that it will give you the exact situation that is made for you in order to surrender deeper than you ever surrendered before. And it's not like, I surrender, I'm done. It's a keep surrendering process, meaning I had to accept that this is how it is right now. Another key here had been that the reminder from so many other women around me that this ends. It's usually the first trimester and then it ends. So that was giving me power, to at least mental power, to go through it. And talking about power is something really magical that happens because of all the instincts and because of being pregnant, which is, I felt I had power, internal power and strength to go through anything.
So even though it had been hard emotionally, at times, I had this underlying strength that it was beyond me. It was beyond me, and also because it wasn't just for me, I felt super, super strong and super powerful, as if the whole life was supporting me. So peace and strength was underneath the turbulence, which was beautiful to feel, a power I've never felt before in this way. It's a different taste to it. So what I meant also about emotional difficulties, I could see how there are moments in this journey that my physical body was bringing me into this state, which is not just an Instagram picture. It's not just a magazine. Yeah, I'm lying down, I'm relaxing, which again, I'm so grateful that I could do this and I had the chance to do this. It is this physical state. It could touch depression. So I could find myself like in this void this vortex that it could suck me in if I didn't choose and I didn't have these tools to get out of it. And it's like a spiral. And once you go down the spiral, it's really hard to climb up. So the important thing here is to recognize it before it sucks you in. Literally felt like a Hoover. So in the realm of pregnancy and birth, there's a lot of talk about postnatal depression, but not so much about prenatal depression. And prenatal depression is actually a thing because a woman is going through a transition, a huge one, an identity crisis, a dark night of the soul, where she is asked to find a different type of strength inside of her, to see things differently. It's just, you name it. I can't even pinpoint of what is happening in this transition to motherhood. So prenatal depression is a thing. And again, accepting and surrendering. If there is an internal fight, there is pain. So surrendering is the acceptance of what is and not what I thought it could be or I would like it to be. And the other thing, as I said, knowing that it will finish, knowing that it will shift, and saying, yeah, this is where I am right now. It sucks, but this is where I am at. And somehow it lightens things up, at least in emotional level. It does. So in whatever way life will bring this to every woman, it would be the right way for a woman to find the deeper surrender that she ever found, that she ever reached from inside of herself. And it keeps going in this journey, this surrendering, this trust in life, which is the feminine, right? Is the total feminine. So this state felt that I was totally in my body, experiencing all the symptoms, and at the same time, I was not fully here. So it felt like there was an upgrade happening to my consciousness, that it was just happening. I was aware that I was somewhere else and here, almost in between worlds, which was what was needed. One interesting thing was that I usually, if I'm going to go to sleep or have a nap, I'm going to go to my bed and lie down. In this time, I would just be sucked by the chair or the sofa, and I would just like sleep, which is incredible. I've never had this before. So I was sleeping for hours and hours and hours, but again, this is what my body was needed. And I don't take that for granted. I know that not every woman is in position to have it, but this is one of the reasons why I am saying this. And I'm passionate about promoting the functions of the female body and how the system we currently have, it's so not compatible with
the female body functions, both for our period and our pregnancies and motherhood. So it really isn't. I could not have imagined myself waking up at 6 or 7 to go to work and work there for 8 hours. I don't know, sitting on a desk or being outside and I don't know what women do. So if you're listening to this and you are one of these women, I'm so proud of you. And perhaps finding ways to rest in your day after that. I know it's a big adjustment, no matter what your scenario is. And I do hope for a social structure that one day would accommodate fully for these female functions. But it starts from us. It really does. It starts from us accepting our full nature and our biology and not expecting from ourselves to function like the male body functions, where our common social structures are designed for that. So accepting the female nature. Another thing that it touched inside me, it was not being able to exercise, not being able to move. I'm quite an active person. I would exercise a lot, and that meant I had to stop, which for me was big. It touched on my body image fear that I'll get fat. I actually had this thought that I'm pregnant, that means I'll get fat. But then I had to shift this in my brain that it doesn't actually mean I'll get fat. I'm pregnant. And yet, again, there was another invitation for deeper surrendering and seeing that I did have a body image thing that I was carrying from way back, and I managed to balance, or it became invisible because I was caring for my body the way I thought it was the right thing for me. I was exercising, I was eating the things my body needed to eat. So I had that under check. But this time where this was taken away from me, I saw the fear all of a sudden, which was another invitation again to surrender and say, you know what? Even if I can't exercise for a year, I'm doing an important job right now. And this is what is going to be. So every time I would have those thoughts coming up, I would take myself back into, I have a baby inside of me. And it's growing. And my body is so wise and can adjust. And it will adjust afterwards. And things will flow the way it's supposed to. So another place where it did touch me personally was that. And I think this is one area where women have a lot of programming around our image, our body image, and how ideally our bodies should look like. This could be one area of life that pregnancy could touch. So it's important to take it again as an invitation to surrender and to really let go to the majesty of your physical body, of how it changes, how these messengers, which are the hormones, act on your body for a specific reason, and is magical. Another thing that changed for me was the intensity of smells and sounds. That was a lot. It is really literally magical, but it made me see how in that state, we're not really supposed to live in a city. And everything was so expanded that it was literally causing me stress to be in traffic. So from, again, very early on, I realized this is the beauty of pregnancy, which wants me to deal with it differently. I anyway love to be in nature as opposed to the city. So what if I spend more time in nature? What if I ask for support when I have to drive or get something? And apart from the external senses, I call it the internal sensations or the intuition. My intuition was so sharp, and I feel this is the way that the unseen becomes seen. I spoke before about the communication with the baby and how that is actually necessary, not just for birth, but also for motherhood, which I'm still to find out. So I want to shift a little bit to the relationship. I've met my partner not even a year ago. I knew that when I meet the right person, things will go fast, even though time is not a real thing, meaning that everything has its own frequency, including humans and including relationships and connections. So our relationship, if you put it in timeline, it was going fast. I'm already pregnant and we're not even a year together. Pregnancy accelerated our melding and our union. And what I mean by that is things were highlighted that we didn't have time to process between us, so that the blending can happen and find the deepest harmony that is necessary for us in this moment. So things really came up between us, and there were things that were coming up before, but the feeling that we are going to be parents. Would I want my child to be present in this right now or a few months later? So in a way, it felt like a riverbed shaping the flow of the river, showing us that you got to deal with this. You have to see this. You have to find ways to deal with what is coming up for you as a couple. And it had been a blessing. Really, pregnancy will show things in our face, and it's our choice, instead of shutting it down, to really look at it. It's a great opportunity. For me, it felt like I want to be the best version of a parent I can. So that means I don't want to blame, project, in avoidance of seeing my own shit. So we both were so willing and transform our relationship to the next level, which I cannot be more happy about. So that was another challenge, beautiful, amazing challenge that this little one brought to us. And I really do believe that. I believe that this baby accelerated things, both in our personal evolution and also as a couple, kind of creating his environment that he wants to come into. And I did have guilt when I was getting angry or when we were arguing. I would have guilt that I am damaging this child, as I know the baby feels everything. And here, what helped me was to ask myself, am I doing my best here? If I wasn't doing my best, I would see where I needed to change, and I would take responsibility for it. I would respond to what life brought me instead of blaming myself, which it can be very much of a wired thing to blame myself and feel guilt. We are very wired for guilt and self-blame, that this is definitely not something I want to pass on to my child. So I had to start from me to really unroot that, not blaming myself for this, and to really do my best wherever I can. So in this whole limbo phase, one thing that was really important and has been important for me was to accept that I cannot do things like before. I really need support, and it kind of prepares me for motherhood, because there will be a little one needing me. Well, my partner has been a great support for me, and this is where I was saying to him, I could not do this without you. And I literally couldn't do this, not just making the baby, but this decision to have a child with a partner that will do this together. And it is a together thing. I could literally not get up and get water. Well, I could, but I would suffer. So I needed him so much. And this is another way that I feel nature brings us together as a couple, as a unit, as a team for preparing us for the upbringing of this child. And it has been magical. It has been incredibly deepening in our relationship. I spoke about the sensitivity of pregnancy and this enhancement of intuition, which is so powerful, but at the same time, there's a lot of vulnerability there. When people find out you're pregnant, they start sharing their experiences. They start sharing their opinions. They start asking you questions about your birth, about the size of your baby, about everything. Oh, you're put on weight, you didn't put enough weight, your breasts are bigger, your belly is small, all these comments. So here, the very, 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 very important thing, it is to stay in your bubble. And yes, you can say, this is very overwhelming for me right now, I don't want to hear it. Or it could be choosing who to share your news or your views or whatever it is about your pregnancy and your baby and your choices. And this is because of our vulnerability as pregnant women, and also the importance of listening to your own intuition and letting your vision about birth, letting the open stream communication with your baby and shape your own path. The one that is only there for you and nobody else. Nobody's journey is your journey. Your journey is yours and it will be perfect, and it is perfect already. So what is important here is to feel when it starts building up for you, closing off, feeling your stomach or any signs of your body that you are affected by what you're listening to, then speak up and say, sorry, I cannot hear this right now. Or thank you very much. Because to be honest, even though I'm saying this and I'm sharing this with you, I'm sharing this after I've been through an experience where I had a conversation from professional to professional. It was about hemorrhage after birth. And I felt I positioned myself and I spoke what was true for me. When I went to sleep, I woke up in the middle of the night and the fear kicked in. Literally. This is where I understood that I subconsciously absorbed what the other person was saying. So I realized, okay, how do I reverse this? I go back and read about it and reposition myself. In a way, the power of these comments of people are amazing to show us where we are at. But at the same time, it is so very important to stay where we are or evolve. So seeing the fear and looking at it in the eyes and choosing where to position ourselves after that. So it is important to protect your environment. It is important to stay in your bubble and choose who you are sharing or receiving information from. One other thing that I saw in me, a tendency in me, but I also see in other women, is to start thinking about birth and thinking what to do, who is your birth team, and all these things regarding birth. It's really early, and an advice that I always give to my women is let the vision come to you. There is plenty of time and it will come to you. All the resources, information, people will come to you when you're open. And especially in the first trimester, there is something happening in the brain, a huge, huge, huge shift. Like new neural connections are being formed that puts you a lot in this meditative state and sleepy state where it's really easy to connect. So there's perfect time to let things come to you, and they will. Even the small messages of the sparkles in your heart you got when you smelled an essential oil and you decided, I would love to smell this in my birth. So yeah, don't rush into finding things out and downloading every app about pregnancy tracking. Yeah, you can do this. Try it, test it out, and see how much info you want, balanced with staying inside yourself and connecting with your intuition, connecting with your baby, because the final say comes from that. Here is where I come to my final point, which is it's very easy when you're pregnant to lose the balance between going along with the ride of what is offered to you. For us, it's the norm to be offered to you for your pregnancy and birth, and doing your own research to choose for yourself for what is good for your baby. Here, as I said, things will start coming to you and you'll start shaping, like even an intuition of who to call to, who to speak with, what to research. But do not overwhelm yourself with all the information online, because whatever you search, you find. And ask for support. You can work with a professional like a doula or a birth educator that can support you finding the choices that are right for you and have experience in all this knowledge that can seem overwhelming for you at the first time you're pregnant. And it is a lot to learn, because in addition to the learning part, you have the part where it's just yours and it's your own journey, it's your own processing that is big. So getting support, don't rush to download every app that is out there, and find your own balance between information and intuition. Information and intuition. This is so very important, and I would love to highlight this, as we tend to value more the information, which is important, but it's not the only thing. Your intuition, your instinct are there to be honored and attend to during pregnancy. And this is what will help you shape your journey of pregnancy and birth and feel empowered in it and come out different anyway, but come out in a way that it feels empowered to you as a woman. So I think I've covered everything that I wanted to say. That's it.